What up, YouTube? Thanks for tuning back in. It's Hump Day. Masters of the Midweek. Yeah, Hump Day. Another day, another $2. Hope all y'all are doing well. Thanks for continuing to support the channel. Lots of things to talk about. There are so many things I wanted to talk about the election. It seemed like when YouTube had implemented certain policies last year, they were basically telling you what you could say and what you couldn't say when it came to the election. They had sent a memo stating their policy change. It's the same thing with the masks as far as vax mandates and these vaccine passports. And also, if you say anything that's critical about the jab, it seems that YouTube is being prejudiced and editing, choosing what they want on their platform and what they don't, which I believe is a violation of the First Amendment. But apparently, corporations have that exemption as far as bypassing the Constitution. The Constitution only protects our right from government that would try to impede on our freedom of speech, but it doesn't say anything about corporations. So, time for us to create an amendment that updates the Constitution. For sure. Yeah. You think about the Constitution's been around for what, 200 and something years, and what YouTube's been around for 50, 20 years or whatever. I mean, if we're going back to 1995, a total of less than 25 years. So how is it that a corporation that's only been operational for a quarter of a century, 25 years approximately or less, somehow has the upper hand on a constitution, a Declaration of Independence that protects our civil liberties, and somehow this company, Google, who owns YouTube, somehow has the trump card that gives them authority over the Constitution of the United States that's been around for a couple hundred years. How is that even possible? It's possible because there's not really anything written in the Constitution to protect us against corporations impeding on our freedom of speech because, well, back then, I guess they weren't really thinking about newspaper publications, or I guess they didn't see a future where there was going to be social media platforms in a digital realm that's in the public space. So if a company's in the public space, right? Well, if they're editing your content, then they're no longer just a free open platform, quote unquote open platform. If someone or a company is editing and choosing what you can say and what you can't say on their platform, then that would define them as a publisher. So something needs to change in the law where these companies are going to need to change their status. Because if they're going to be editing and picking and choosing what people put, whether it's Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, whoever it is, then they need to change their status. Something needs to change. And the government needs to step in. I remember last year they had Mark Zuckerberg and head of Facebook, the head of Twitter, whatever the hell his name is. But it seemed like they were having these meetings on C-SPAN with congressional hearings that were looking like they were going to do something about, impeding on freedom of speech. And it just seemed like another dog and pony show just for looks, to make it look like our government is fighting for us. I mean, even I was seeing a lot of Republicans that were fighting for it. Some Democrats were fighting for it. And I agreed with some on both sides. And I'm like, hey, you know what? They're both bringing some valid points to the table here. But what happened? Nothing happened. It just kind of faded out. And then the next thing you know, we all move on with our lives and we forget about it. But I didn't forget, because I realized that ultimately they're making it look like, a lot of times they make it look like they're fighting for us, like they're on our side, on the people's side. But they're not. See, the beauty is the government has a scapegoat, and ultimately it gives them plausible deniability. So it allows the corporations to do the government's dirty work and still allows the government to have, clean hands and back off and keep their distance to say, well, we don't have anything to do with this. These are private companies, If you agree to their terms and conditions, then, hey, that's a private company. They can do whatever they want. But I've seen things that really contradict that, especially with fact checkers. And all coincidentally, around the time the cerveza sickness was going on, all of a sudden, all the platforms are fact checking and blocking and censoring people's information on freedom of speech, regardless if they're saying things that were critical towards the agenda or towards what was going on with the pandemic or whatever, or the jabs or whatever it is that people want to be critical of. That's their opinions. People have a right to an opinion. I mean, can you imagine a world where we're just censoring what we want to hear and what we don't want to hear? It's not freedom of speech. I mean, just because you don't like what someone's saying doesn't mean you have a right to silence them. There's a lot of things that we're all going to say at times that we all don't agree with each other on, and that's just part of this imperfect world. That's life. But something needs to change because the fact that we're being censored, and it does give the government that plausible deniability, that scapegoat, that kind of loophole. Either way, it's a cop-out, and I think all of us know it. Yeah. So I'm going to continue to speak up, do my thing. Stay tuned for new videos. You guys are going to definitely like what I got coming up next. Got some people that are speaking out about some of these critical issues, and I think many of you will respect these individuals that are speaking up for righteousness and speaking up for liberty. So appreciate y'all as always. Thank you so much for tuning in. United USA. Check you later.